Hello, everyone. Welcome to our free event where we give you a look inside of our course. My name is Elizabeth Gaines. I am the Director of Education for Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, and it is my pleasure to be giving you this sneak peek into our certification course. We're going to be looking at Module 1, Lesson 1 today, see how far we get with that. If we've got some time, we might delve a little bit into Lesson 2. This is straight out of the course. So when all of you become FDNs, this will look familiar to you when you get there, when you get to Module 1, Lesson 1. And I'm really proud to be able to give you this sort of look behind the curtain into what our curriculum is like, especially this particular lesson that we're going into with Module 1, Lesson 1. This is really about who we are and how we think and what makes FDN different from other programs out there that you might be considering. So please feel free to put in the chat where you're from, where you're joining us from, what you do, and what you are hoping to get out of your time with us. Again, I'm so glad that everyone is coming in and joining us for this event. We could not be happier to have you guys here. And while we are waiting for folks to chime in here in the chat, I will remind you that we have our Valentine's Day free event coming up, which we call our 5 Pillars Workshop, which is really about healthy lifestyle and the roadmap that all FDNs use when making recommendations based on data for their clients. So it's something that you could walk away from with some tips and tricks for yourself. It's something you could implement with your own clients, and certainly you can come to the FDN course and give yourself that gift for Valentine's Day as well. I was excited when we put it on Valentine's Day because I think it really is a love letter to yourself and to your clients. So that's coming up. I don't see anyone chiming in the chat here, Brenda. Oh, there's Sharmil. He says, I'm in Portland, Oregon. I'm a nutritional aesthetics practitioner, health coach for skin wellness. That's amazing. That's great. That's super interesting. So Sharmil, what are you hoping to learn today? So we can kind of weave that in there. And I am joined by Reed Davis, who is the founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. Reed, so happy to have you here. How are you doing today?
It's my pleasure, of course. Elizabeth, always wonderful to get together with you and anyone thinking about joining the team, the community. Hopefully, we'll lay out a few things that will help them make that decision.
Awesome. So I was just telling everyone that this is a sneak peek inside the course. So this is straight from what they will be learning when they sign up. This lesson will look familiar to them. As a result, we don't give the slides away or send them out because they are inside the course. But this is our Module 1, Lesson 1, which we call Stopping the Cycle of Trial and Error. And we're really going to get down into the framework and the philosophy of what FDN is, how we operate, and how we are different from other programs out there that you might be considering. So we're just going to dive right in if you're ready, Reed.
I'm always ready to talk FDN, Elizabeth, and I commend you for all the amazing work you've been doing. And it's all just about using the principles of the body's innate healing and lots of ways to take advantage of that. And thank you, Brenda, for being here too, keeping everybody in check and posted and stuff. So good.
Awesome. So at heart, we're all health entrepreneurs. So do you have clients, but they're not reaching their goals, even if they follow your program. You or your client or patient still have unresolved health complaints. Are clients seeking help elsewhere? And you always have to find new ones to replace them. This is what we call the cycle of trial and error. This is really one of the things we want to talk about today. It's one of the foundational principles of the program that Reed created, is how to stop that particular cycle. Yes, Reed.
I hate that part when you see your clients going down the road.
Yes.
Because you know that you didn't help them. And 25 years ago, I decided I was going to be the last person they needed to see. People were coming in our office, a wellness center in Southern California, and they, had been to 6, 8, 10 different practitioners. And I just resolved I'm going to be the last guy. And I spent the next 10 years running thousands of labs on thousands of people and came up with a system that you could get much better results with when everything else had failed. And so that was my job. And now it's your job too. Everyone listening, that's your job, is to be the last person, not to be number 9 out of 14. That's not satisfying. That doesn't give you all the emotional satisfaction of being a good practitioner of any kind, whether you're whatever kind you are. So thanks.
There's nothing more satisfying than living your purpose. That's absolutely true, Reed.
Yeah, and then who wants to be finding new ones all the time? You want the goal, the holy grail in our business is referral-based practice, because then you don't have to do all that monkeying around.
Yeah. So this is not a medical approach. Medical treatment is for specific diseases or diagnoses or managing symptoms only. We don't believe in that here at FDN. So we work in a non-specific manner, identifying healing opportunities and underlying causes. Medical treatment depends on drugs and surgery. We apply wellness principles on a journey of ever-deepening insights and individual obstacles to health opportunities for overcoming them. And then here's this beautiful quote from Reed: "The honest pursuit of these healing opportunities and creatively working towards their resolution is the basis upon which FDN works." So we don't diagnose or treat anything. We look at all the healing opportunities and treat them all non-specifically. Anything you want to add there, Reed?
Just that came from my entering the space without a medical degree. I had absolutely no medical training. It didn't stop me from finding out what's really wrong. Matter of fact, it encouraged me to find out what's really wrong. The doctors at the clinic where I worked, Elizabeth, used to laugh at me. Haha, we get to just diagnose and write a prescription for whatever, their symptoms are. You're going to have to really find out what's wrong and then teach them how to fix it themselves. That was the challenge. And I said, okay, I can do that. And hopefully saved some people some work.
That's
You don't have to
amazing.
figure it out for yourself anymore.
Yeah.
We have amazing community, and Elizabeth right at the top of the pile there.
So we have a public that's facing unprecedented levels of health problems. And I know all of you out there know that. I saw a statistic the other day that says the average 30-year-old has 9.3 prescriptions. That's insane. So it's not for lack of need that patients are not being helped. So we've got rampant chronic disease out there, diabetes on the rise, obesity on the rise, fatty liver disease on the rise. Like all of these things are coming to a head, and the medical model just doesn't have these chronic lifestyle-based diseases under control. So what do all of these health complaints have in common? So what we offer.
The answer to your question,
Oh, yeah.
I think your slides read, is that they're all the result of metabolic chaos. They all are the result of metabolic chaos or contributors, the result of hidden stressors and dysfunction metabolic chaos. And that is, that's the trick. That's what we found out running thousands of labs and thousands of people that was common among all these things. So it doesn't matter what's wrong with people. They could let them have their medical diagnosis. That's not our backyard. All we care about are the hidden stressors and dysfunctions that are underlying all of it that the person can take control of. You're doing a great job. I'll just add the color commentary, continuously repeating how we think about things.
And we will talk about metabolic chaos in more detail, but just sort of a overview of what that term means is that symptoms are vague and they can't tell us their own root cause. They're just sort of a flag on the play where the referee is saying something is wrong. They're just there to make us pay closer attention to what the actual dysfunction is. But the same symptom can have multiple root causes. And so metabolic chaos is the idea that we need to look at all of the systems and the imbalances within them before we can really understand what's going on and why these particular symptoms are appearing. The symptoms can't tell us what labs to run. The symptoms can't tell us what supplements someone needs. And the symptoms can't tell us what lifestyle modifications to make. So one of the paradigms I love in FDN is this one right here. You're either going to opt into a self-care model where you walk your clients and yourself through lifestyle modifications and behavioral adjustments, or later on, you're going to be forced into a disease care model because it's gone too far and things are now out of a space where they can be prevented. And I think that's such a powerful paradigm shift in saying, hey, we're gonna work with clients in this space where we're gonna help them opt into self-care while there's still time before they're forced into disease care. Anything you want to add there, Reed?
Just that's a picture of Jack LaLanne, who was around like my entire life. My mom used to watch him on black and white TV, exercising and stuff. And he didn't die till he was well into his 90s. And all except for the perm, he was in perfect shape. One look at me and you know why I say that.
So who out in the audience, feel free to type in the chat, has been to the doctor and you lay out your symptomology to the doctor and the doctor looks at your blood and the doctor says it's normal. That has certainly
Either
happened to
you,
me.
yeah, say me or a friend of mine, the client, someone.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. This definitely happened to me when I had chronic fatigue. I went to see 5 or 6 doctors, all of whom said, this is in your head. I think you're just depressed. But what they're really saying then is if you've got headaches, that's an aspirin deficiency. Here, take some aspirin. Or with fatigue, is that a caffeine deficiency? With sleeplessness, is it because you don't have Ambien around your house? No. The symptoms are not the problem. They are the result of the problem, and that problem is dysfunction. That's another quote from Reed. And he very aptly says that doctors can save lives, but they can't meet all of your needs. They are trained for catastrophe intervention. Once you get to that point where it is disease, once you get to that point where there's been a car accident, once you get to that point where bones are broken and you need surgery, yes, doctor can save your life. But in that gray space where a lot of us find ourselves, where we say, well, I'm definitely not well, but I'm not technically sick. Doctors don't have a lot to add in that gray space. So that's really where FDN shine. Anything you want to add there, Reed?
Just that, don't take anything we say is against doctors. We're just playing in a different sandbox. They do what they do really well. And if that's what you need, yeah, go get it. A friend of mine, Tom O'Brien, Dr. O'Brien says, hey, it's okay to put a life preserver on. If you're drowning, you need to get the life preserver on and get over to the edge of the pond or pool, whatever, and then the work begins. And that's where we meet you and say, okay, let's make sure that doesn't happen again. Whatever that was. So
Yeah.
doctors are amazing. They do fantastic work. But they're not meeting the needs because it's just not their backyard. Just like their backyard isn't ours isn't theirs either. So there really is. I think we're the kind of the epitome of complementary health space work.
I agree. And as a practicing FDN, I have great relationships with doctors because they understand I'm not doing what they're doing. We have two separate backyards, and that FDNs can actually sort of free them up to do what they do best when they don't have to deal with these lifestyle complaints.
Amen.
So, interestingly, diet and exercise are not always enough. There are other ways that we can pull on the lifestyle levers to affect change for somebody in their health. So diet is critical, yet many clients come to us with chronic health complaints who are already eating healthy, real food. Along those same lines, exercise is mandatory, yet there are many fit but unhealthy people. And you all know those people. You all know those people in your CrossFit gym who go to CrossFit 7 days a week and eat 50 grams of protein at every meal and haven't had a carb in 10 years. They look good, but they are not well. They are not well. I think we all know exactly who this slide is describing. Right,
Yeah,
Reed?
yes. This slide's here, after the doctor slide, because they certainly give a nod to diet and exercise. Absolutely. They recognize the value, but that's not always enough. And that may not be the perfect meal for you. You got to get the right meal for you. And then exercise, of course. This reminds me of the first FDN I ever taught in 2008. Do the math. Had a lady who showed up who was a fitness trainer, and she was a bubbly little thing. I say affectionately. And yet when she ran the labs that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, she realized, yeah, you're right about that. And yeah, you're right about that. And yeah, you're right. So you can, we see these so-called fit looking. She didn't have an extra pound on her, but turns out she wasn't doing so well. And it took the lab work to get her to see the problem. And now I know that she's, doing our work and probably hasn't aged a day since, because she's willing to do the work.
Yeah, and I had a friend that I used to train martial arts with who had a very defined six pack. Yet he was the first one who couldn't do sit-ups, the first one who would run out of energy when we were practicing, and he used to say that his muscles were just for show. So it's exactly
Oh,
true that
that's
they're not
funny.
always enough. Yeah,
So true.
yeah, yeah. So when we talk about this cycle of trial and error, what we really mean is that there's an overwhelming amount of information available. You got your wearables out there. You've got all of this sort of information available on your health dashboards. You've got all of these shiny functional labs out there to do. You've got blood work. On top of this, you have an endless number of providers with every kind of therapy, remedy, modality. And they're all saying, like, this is it. This is the thing that will be the panacea, that will step in and cure all the ills. It will work on everybody for every condition all the time. You've got the hormones, digestion, detoxification programs that work on some people some of the time. But for other people, it's not going to do anything. And for others, it's actually going to make them worse. So what we've learned is that this sort of single reliance on one modality doesn't predictably get great results across the board. And so you have to ask, whose purpose is really being served here?
Yeah, that's a question that I had to ask. I finally learned to ask that because as the health director and case manager at a clinic for 10 years, 1999 to 2009. Can you imagine how many reps of a product or service or gizmo or something before the word biohacker, there was all these little things that they wanted to bring into our clinic or thought that we should have in our clinic. And I had to learn real quickly to take a very close look at whose purpose is being served. It was very often their purpose, obviously the salesman, but also the clinic itself. I mean, there's different ways to pay your rent, so to speak. So would I get this thing just to help me pay the rent or what? And so the test of ethics and your whole sort of purpose in life and everything came down to, will this serve my clients and patients? And that became the gold standard. It's the only purpose. The only purpose is will this help Mrs. Smith or Mr. Jones? And if it didn't pass that sort of smell test, then all these salesmen got the proverbial foot in the don't hurt yourself going out the door, type of thing. And yet, and to this day, I mean, you wouldn't believe now that we have actually a big tribe, thousands of practitioners, you wouldn't believe that now it's worse than back then, because they don't even need to come and knock on the door and anymore. They just try to get on your email. They get your email and your phone number, and they send you all kinds of the stuff I have to weed through is unbelievable.
Or they show up in your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed, and the more you see them, the more
Yeah.
tempted you are to try what they're offering.
Yeah. By the way, if you are one of those people listening to this particular program, um, email Elizabeth, not me. The truth is, we have a committee now that everything, first of all, if it gets past me, that's one thing, but then it's got to get past the committee. And even if it gets past the vetting committee for any new product or service, laboratory, whatever it is, it still doesn't get accepted by the entire tribe. So there's no ATM machine at FDN. We protect our membership and our practitioners.
Reed, I've worked with you for a long time. I've known you for a long time, and one of the things I admire most about you is your ethics and your integrity as a person. And I love that you have really baked that into the DNA of FDN.
Thank you.
So what does this cycle of trial and error look like for you and your clients? And this is going to look familiar. So you go to the doctor, you get your diagnosis. The doctor says, hey, the answer to this is drugs or surgery. Or if you're going to a functional doctor or a practitioner of some sort, and they say, hey, the answer is diet, exercise, supplement, therapy, whatever it is that they're selling, and you spend some money on that, and it doesn't work. And so you go down to the next guy who's got supplements and exercise, diet, or therapy, spend some more money, that doesn't work. And so you're on to the next guy selling the therapy, the diet, the supplements, the exercise, and more money. Um, and we just get back to into this loop of, okay, I need more data, more information, another solution that's single source, more money out the door. And generally speaking, it's not going to predictably work or reliably work. And so you got to go on to the next and on to the next and on to the next. So this is obviously not filling the needs. Who here resonates with this cycle of trial and error? I certainly did. When I was in the midst of chronic fatigue and when I was at the doctor and being told that everything was normal and that it was just that I was depressed. Um, I was out there listening to all the podcasts and I was trying all of the supplements and I was trying all of the therapies and I was out buying these red light gadgets to stick in my ears or whatever it was. I was desperate. And I think a lot of us can relate to that particular dilemma. So please put in the chat me or my clients or whatever it is, if this cycle of trial and error is familiar to you.
Yeah, and I put the dollar signs there on this slide because of the amount of money being spent. Now that serves a purpose. It serves the purpose of whoever's selling the stuff, and then It could pay your rent, but it will not fill your client's real need. And believe it or not, it doesn't fill your need to serve either. I mean, having money in the bank is wonderful, but if you're not getting the emotional fulfillment of successful clients, then you're just another person in the pack. Again, you're going to be number 9 out of 14 people you got to end the cycle of trial and error. And our whole program, that's what it's designed for.
Yep. I'll let you take this one, Reed.
Oh, shucks. Well, yeah, I was in environmental law and conservation. I was saving the whole planet, air, birds, water, trees, and bees. And you notice how bad some of these things are. And you start wondering about people. And that's what happened to me. I just started wondering about people, including myself. I was healthy, but I didn't want anything to sneak up on me later. I had a good friend of mine's dad who I was close to. He was quote unquote perfectly healthy. And then he dropped dead. Like in one, he didn't wake up well, I would say perfectly healthy, my butt. There had to be something wrong. So things like that. Plus, you get sick of seeing dead fish and dead birds and garbage everywhere. So uh, I was taking my son into this chiropractic wellness center in Southern California. He was a high school athlete. He got 7 varsity letters in 4 different sports, and I got a new career. It was just listening to the teachers there. I wanted to be one, at least work there, and they gave me a job in marketing. And within it was literally just weeks, and I started running the place. I could do a better job, and I was studying anatomy and physiology and biochemistry, and I was talking to every single patient coming in the door. That's where that trial and error thing. Every single one of them was stuck in that. And so I was out riding my motorcycle one day, and I just was getting angry at the ripoff that they were experiencing through other systems, whether it be medical or alternative or whatever the heck they were doing. And I just decided to be the last person they needed to see, which was very naive, and I got a lot of laughter out of that one. But I did my homework. I spent 10 years running thousands of tests on thousands of people. And I had great mentorship, but I also observed who got better and who didn't. And all you know that if you work close to the underlying cause, you have a better chance. But what was weird was people with the same complaint, tired, fatigue, foggy thinking, overweight, no libido, can't build muscle, all the things, they had completely different causes. That's how I knew the lab work you had to establish the causal factors. So that's how I developed FDN and the Dress for Health Success program. And, this is kind of catchphrasy, but I identified the needs gap. These people had big gap. And what fills it is our system. And that ended that cycle of trial and error for so many people. And I only did it, I have to say this, Elizabeth, only did it for our patients and to make our clinic successful. But when someone said, Reed, you need to be teaching, that's when I started sharing what I discovered, the whole system. What took me 10 years to figure out, I can teach you in 10 months.
That's right. Yep. And it's helped so many others outside the clinic now. It certainly helped me when I was a student, and it's helped all of my clients, and 4,000 people can say that at this point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enough about that.
So, Reed was just talking about how he identified the needs gap and figured out how to fill it. So how do we fill it? So instead of this latest supplement, diet, exercise, or therapy, going around in this circle of trial and error, spending all of this money, we're going to fill that needs gap by identifying the healing opportunities, coaching up function, coaching down those hidden stressors, which take money out of your body's bank account. And we're going to respect the metabolic individuality of each person. We're not going to chase symptoms. The root cause may never be known to us as FDNs. We can run labs, but we may never be able to singly measure the root cause. The root cause may itself not be singly sourced, or it might not still be present. But it doesn't matter because we can still have a positive influence on all these imbalances upstream, including the root cause, without knowing that they're there by working on all available healing opportunities. And through that method, we're going to sort out metabolic chaos. And that way, everybody's needs are met.
Truly.
So imagine the world if instead of being the practitioner that has to chase down a symptom to say, okay, you've got fatigue, you've got brain fog, we tried A, we tried B, we tried C, now I got to go back to the drawing board to figure out what is D and E and F and keep throwing different solutions at this problem to see what sticks. What if instead of that, there was a method by which you could do step-by-step assessment procedures that allow you to identify underlying conditions and imbalances. And then you had a method of correlating those test results with the health complaints that the client is bringing to you, validating a therapeutic protocol. What if you had potent, proven, professional, drug-free protocols that help you improve health instead of just treating the symptoms? So imagine that for a moment.
Yeah, it's time to stop the cyclotron here. And let's go into that a little bit.
Absolutely. So people often want to know, do you know what's wrong with me? All they do is treat the symptoms, referring to whatever practitioner or methodology they came from. So the answer to that is yes, we do know what's wrong with you. Malfunctions and dis-ease, not disease with a big D, but dis-ease that come from the dysfunction that comes from imbalances within the foundational systems. Question number 2 that everyone wants to know, can you help me? Yes, we can. We're health detectives. So our whole purpose is to identify healing opportunities and use protocols that will restore normal function to those healing opportunities. So all of these imbalances are costing money out of your body's bank account. So we're going to go in and write protocols that will raise the bank account balance. And then we trust that the body knows how to spend the money upstream. And then number 3, have you helped others like me? Absolutely. FDN has helped thousands of people, and the FDN family is always growing.
You know, it's in the tens of thousands, but these are the 3 questions that all patients or clients want to know. If they're in the cyclotron era, that means number 1, they're sick of it. They're sick of trying this and trying that. It's like playing whack-a-mole. They may actually get rid of a symptom, but a new one pops up because they haven't dealt with the underlying malfunction and disease, which are often very far upstream. So they're very frustrated. When they say, can you help me? What they're saying is, I don't want to get ripped off. You know, I don't just want another lick and a promise, you know, like I really want someone who will at least try to find what's wrong with me. And so that's our job. This is your main job. Identify the healing opportunities, like what's really wrong, out of balance, broken, and etc. And then use the protocols that restore, you know, teach them what to do about it. That's the real job, helping people. Have you helped others like me? Well, they don't want to be your first, you know, your experiment. They don't want you, let's try this and see what happens. They hate that. They got no patience for trial and error, even though they've been in it for years. They got none left. So our experienced practitioners, oh yes, help lots of people like you with you just look at the picture there, you know, someone sick and tired of the crap. And if you're new, what's wonderful about FDNs, you can say, yes, we just say, yes, we have helped thousands of people just like you. That's why we say we're the FDN family or tribe or community is growing strong, and we encourage you to be one of us.
Excellent.
We can skip this. I've sort of been through it.
Okay.
Yeah. So is it my turn yet?
It's absolutely your turn, Reed.
I was smelling that. So how can you say yes? You want to be able to say yes, yes, yes to those three questions? Yes. The way you stop just treating symptoms and seek underlying causes of disease, things overlooked by the medical model. Matter of fact, so many of your potential clients or clients were told nothing's wrong with you. And that doesn't mean it's all in your head. Here's your chill pill. I get so many stories. We just don't have time today to go over the amazing cases where, I learned this in the street, so to speak, in the office with live people right in front of me with their eyes staring at me, just begging kind of for a hope I had an answer. So I had to give it my all. Now, we use a functional lab system to identify those malfunctions at subclinical level. That means pre-disease, means your doctor might say your blood work looks normal, but we find these imbalances and problems, things that can be fixed within the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous systems. That spells HIDDEN, hidden, and so many of them are. So then once you get that work done, then you can use the lab guided health building strategies management, and obviously always drug free and all natural, that actually work. They put the person in a process of moving forward. So we're engaging clients in a committed relationship. In other words, it's a business. They pay it a fee for service. We have contracts and stuff, at least written agreements. And they got to do the behavior modification. We do the investigation. We we come up with the things they need to do to change and work on, and then they do the work, and we guide them along the way, obviously. So it's very self-determined. It's very empowering for people. And frankly, remember I said like my first sort of getting turned on about this clinic was that the people they were teaching, they taught me and my son about that innate healing ability. That's the magic right there. And it's been suppressed, it's been interfered with, and we just get them back to nature and normal operations. So yeah, we can say yes to all those things. And there's a picture of a lab there. It's just one. Here's some more labs. Don't really, they're just pictures, they may or may not be the labs we use, actually. So once
So,
again,
yeah, go ahead, Reed.
here's how we work. Functional lab testing to identify malfunctions and healing opportunities within the HIDDEN. Those internal stressors and dysfunctions correlate really highly with most common health complaints. Now, Elizabeth went over a list of common health complaints early on. And I was going to jump in and say, well, this is a partial list of the things going on in a very tainted, environment, very tainted from every form of input. All the signaling the human mind and brain and body are subjected to is pretty toxic. And so it produces a lot of problems. And we have a system proven, well developed, reliable, repeatable, that that looks upstream at the root causes.
Amazing. Yes.
So we work number one, run the labs. Number two, design a protocol based on the labs that covers all those inputs and signals. The five most important areas are your diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. Now, it sounds simple, and it basically is, but you got to understand the principles involved. Again, we teach a lot of the anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, so that we can coach up that vital reserve, that innate intelligence. We call it metabolic reserve or strategic reserve, or it's just that Elizabeth so appropriately calls it the bank account of life left in you. So if you're still fogging a mirror, you got some vital reserve. Once that's done, then you've got none left. So this works on any age, any group, anyone that's still breathing has some vital reserve. We try to coach that up. You get the most out of it. And while we coach down the contributors to metabolic chaos, there's so many types of stress. You look at that DRESS, stress reduction. Well, what do you mean? It means a lot. There's a lot to investigate and help someone sort out there. So it's a very effective program, so effective we were granted a trademark. And then step one, run the lab. Step two, design the program. And
then step three.
You go ahead.
Step three is to run the program. So we help clients adopt the self-care model based on behavior change. We're going to provide what we call a results and recommendations session, where we're going to take the client through the results and then clinically correlate that back to their history and their lifestyle, how they have lived their lives up to that point, and then make recommendations from there in the DRESS categories. And a lot of you out there may be practitioners who are working on one or two of those areas. But what Reed found is that you've got to be working in all five in order to have the biggest impact, to really be putting as much money as you possibly can back in the Vital Reserve bank account. Then we will do follow-ups where we check progress and conformity to the protocol in regular intervals so that we're checking in, seeing how it's going. We're going to answer questions and we're going to guide course correction. This is a very important step. The initial protocol is like a blueprint, but the client will run into obstacles with that. They will need to deviate from that. And we as FDNs are nimble enough to be able to change course when we have to, and change up what's going on in the D, the R, the E, the S, or the S as circumstances dictate. We're going to provide honest feedback and accountability. That's very important. If the client comes in and says, well, I ate gluten a bunch this week, I'm not helping them if I say, well, that's okay. It was a hard week. You'll just get back on the horse next week. I've got to be honest about why that isn't helping. And to help keep them accountable to the program that they have agreed to and that we've set out. We make and keep appointments. We retest or investigate deeper healing opportunities when needed. And we refer out for additional needs if they are not in our wheelhouse. Like, I'm not a chiropractor. I'm not a massage therapist. I'm not a talk therapist. So if my client needs those particular modalities to aid in stress reduction and to put money back in the Vital Reserve bank account by working through emotional stressors or getting their physical alignment together, get the kinks worked out of the muscles, then I need to be recommending that. So that is our three-step process.
Yeah, I love it. And thank you, Elizabeth. We're getting some pretty good questions. And we're going to save them for the end. Okay, so we promise to come back and end it. We get the proverbial, what are the labs costs? Don't look at it as a cost. You can't, because you're already in the trap. It's going to cost me money. No, you're going to start investing in yourself in a way that is going to produce the best outcome, what your true goals are. So instead of what does it cost, it's or it's just like, is a savings account a cost? Do you put the same amount of money into a savings account every week, every month? Like, I buy Bitcoin, like a little teeny tiny piece of a Bitcoin, every 2 weeks out of my paycheck. Is that a cost? What is those? Are those Bitcoins costing me money? No, they don't cost me a penny. I'm getting many times my money back. It was at 60,000 a coin. Now it's at 110,000 a coin. It's not costing me anything. So you can't use the word cost when it comes to labs. I mean, you could say how much you pay for them in a different way, though. So I just wanted to get that one out of the way. It's a tough one. Get the we'll teach you. And yes, by the way, we do teach that. We also teach how to work with clients who are having difficulty implementing. That's the third step. That's right here. So, and this is what we teach. First of all, get them really highly motivated with the results and recommendations. They get motivated. When you go through the test results, the most common, Elizabeth, tell me, isn't the most common expression, wow, I can't believe you figured out what's wrong with me. How come my regular doctor didn't figure this out? Or the 5 regular doctors of it. No one's ever figured this out before. That's the most common thing that we hear. And now
I
they're
also
motivated.
get a lot of, oh, no wonder I feel this way.
Yeah, the labs explain why you feel like crap
Mhm.
when everyone else said, try this, try that, try this, try that. So that gets better, better conformity. And if they do have additional difficulty with implementation, we know how to check, is it your support system? You know, is there any counter influence in your life that you need to get rid and things like that. Also, we call it obstacles to healing. So if some obstacle to healing appears before us, if it's just a food sensitivity or a parasite or some chemical exposure, those are easy. It's when those obstacles to healing are in the mind and emotions of the person. And yes, we teach all of that. So just so you know, yeah, we got that sorted out pretty well. This is step 3 here.
Great. We just have a little bit left to go in this lesson, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay, I know I don't usually stop. So listen, the other thing that we hear a lot, I already ran a test. Well, other experts run tests, and many health practitioners can order lab tests. Matter of fact, anyone can get labs these days. And that's not a bad thing if they're properly interpreted and used. The problem is most do it based on the symptoms, then treat the paper. They treat the paper. So if you hear you go to and you complain about a certain cluster of symptoms, tired, fatigued, overweight, can't lose the weight, cold or numb extremities, constipation, and I feel sad, that says thyroid. That's thyroid written all over it. But if all you do is test the thyroid, go, yep, pat myself on the back, found your problem, your low thyroid. Here's your rim. It's some agent to get the numbers to change. That's not FDN. That's medical, and that's good for a few symptoms, but it won't really heal anything or get that person to change. They'll just get new symptoms somewhere else. And then the other thing, because I spent 13 years of the last 25, I did a little part-time work for one of the labs that we used to use. So I was a clinical advisor for a lab, and doctors would I'd be on the phone with them and they'd say, hey, I got a client or patient with this, this, and this. What lab should I run? Well, knowing what we know, that those are just the symptoms, the causal factors are way up here. Remember what we've already taught you in today's lesson: hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production. Which lab wouldn't you run? When you have no clue what's causing, you have no clue what's causing it. Matter of fact, a lot of times they're not even looking for the clues. Except they were learning the system that one of the labs that I worked with was part of. Anyway, so don't think of what lab should I run. Which one are you going to leave out is the real question. And then you don't. You don't leave it out. Because the cycle that they're creating in that with that methodology is, well, I think it sounds like thyroid. So you check thyroid. Yep, it's thyroid. Here's your medication. Then the person comes back with another complaint, low libido, can't build muscles. Oh, well, that sounds like testosterone. Check testosterone. Yep, found your other problem. Now they're going to treat that piece of paper. They're going to get the numbers to change without really changing anything in the signaling, that's the epigenetics that are going on with that person. So they're just creating a new cycle: test, treat, diagnose, treat, diagnose, treat. It's just another vicious cycle. So that's what I got to say about that. Yeah, we just covered this.
Great.
And so this is the next level health expertise that you signed up for. I think that's the title of today's little webinar here, which we're just about to end and go on to questions with. It's a very duplicatable system that predictably gets results. So no more farting around. No more trial and error for you. No more playing whack-a-mole with your clients because they'll get sick of that. It's a very science-based system, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, physics. You can get to work from home. You can go face-to-face with your clients. I developed some of this before there was Skype or Zoom. You guys have it made, you know. There's no office visit fee. You can save people money. You can work with groups, so you can have your, sign up 10 people for a class, and then you can kind of groom and cherry pick from there who you really want to work with. This is very complete training. It's A to Z, and it's taught on a gradient. Some of the feedback we get, Elizabeth, you can attest to this, is, we took a person who never had anything past high school biology, maybe some college, and around it, but and so we teach on a gradient. We keep adding. You learn this, then you add to it, and then you got that, and then you add some more, and add some more, and add some more. All you have to really do is go out and duplicate this. Again, I spent 10 years developing a system that I can teach you in 10 months or less. It's self-paced, right?
Absolutely. Yes. I think I finished in 6 months,
Yeah.
and I had no health background at all. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just end it there and then take questions. Do we have
Great.
a CTA, Brenda? Is there some kind of a link you want to put in here, or are they going to get that later by email or?
Yeah.
The CTA is to come to our Valentine's Day 5 Pillars workshop on Friday.
Okay.
Yep, which you are all already registered for by virtue of registering for this workshop. But please come and attend, and we would
Are you
love to
getting a
to see
twofer
you
then?
there.
You're getting a
Yep,
twofer.
getting a twofer. Yep.
I love that.
Okay, so what did the labs cost? Sharmil is asking, how do you deal with physical pain as the block?
You got to go after it. That happens to be my particular name, like me, Reed Davis. I don't have digestive problems or hormone problems or immune system problem. What I have is injuries from having a well-used body, the sports, the motorcycle, and all the things. I highly recommend you stay away from that cordless bungee jumping. That was a bad one. Um, I'm joking, but look, I got neck, back, both shoulders, left knee, and on and on. Why? Because I beat the crap out of myself. I did jujitsu and martial arts and surfing and everything you can think of. So I deal with it by getting the best of care. I believe in exercise, and um, it sometimes takes a bit of a team. Like, remember, I created FDN in a chiropractic wellness center. So I know a bit about the body. I'm a certified fitness trainer and all these things. So yeah, sometimes and I'm still experimenting to this day. Look, you don't have to be perfect to be an FDN. Matter of fact, if you are, you'll be the only one. And like I'm waiting to meet that person. But so we're all just on a journey. Um, we're climbing the stairs of health. There are people with who farther up the stairs than me, but there's no one at the top. And there's people down below the stairs. They got a lot more steps to do. And so your job is to help them up the steps. But don't think that there's people sitting at the top of the steps who know it all, because I haven't met that person yet in 25 years. So the physical pain is the block. I'm trying some new things, stem cells and platelet-rich plasma, certain things. Remember, I'm old. They've been around a long time, some of these things, and it really hurt myself. I didn't know it at the time. A right hip labrum tear from one kick, from I mean, repeatedly doing a round kick in Muay Thai. Um, and I just talked to another Muay Thai guy yesterday. He says, yeah, all my Muay Thai friends have hip problems. So word to the
Interesting.
wise, you can actually overdo it. My son is 42, has arthritis in his hips from football because we're so tough. We're so damn tough and tough on ourselves, and we push ourselves. So that's a good question, Charmel. And we deal with it as we get to it, you know, doing basics. We do all the lab work on those people to make sure we get everything balanced as we work on those injuries.
And we would consider that in our stress reduction category of lifestyle recommendation, Sharmil. Physical pain is an enormous cost out of the body's bank account. Physical pain costs money every second of every minute of every day. And so we do take that into account when we are inventorying what are the stressors and how do we help our clients remove every single possible stressor. And you're saying that your specific pain that you're talking about is RA flares.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
rheumatoid arthritis is a tough one
Yeah.
for some people because they're used to just drugging it. I got a friend who's on Humira, and he just thinks he's fine as long as he gets his injections every month. He's not a customer because of that. As long as I get my shots every month, then I can use my hands. You know, like, okay, that's good, man. You can, but he's not willing to do the labs that would look for the food sensitivities and the chemical sensitivities and all the things that are contributing and contributed originally to the breakdown. Rheumatoid arthritis isn't something you catch from your neighbor or loved one in any way. It's something that develops in your body over time, and it is progressive. So it can get really bad. Now, depending on how bad it's, where it is, would help dictate how much work there is to overcome it. And some people may, frankly, always be on some kind of combination, complementary between their physician and what they could do. We can certainly find a lot of contributors to that metabolic chaos.
Mm,
Tons of.
absolutely. Yeah. Christina asks, is there mold testing available and a protocol?
Oh yeah, we love our mold test and all the other tests. So yes, there is. Remember, the basic principle, which we always go back to, is you can't empty a bathtub when the water's still running. So you want to detoxify the body from mold toxins, mycotoxins, and so yeah, you can test and see that they're there, but if you aren't looking at the source as well as the detox, you're wasting your time, or at least you're kind of trying to walk in two different directions. We had new air conditioners put in last spring, about a year ago, and guess what? The first time I turned the air conditioning on, a month later, it leaked all over, down through the ceiling on the second floor onto the floor, and it was because it was a bad install on the condenser up in the attic, and so I raised bloody hell, not just to fix the installation and do it properly, but you better come back and kill any mold and remediate and all that stuff. It took 6 months for them to finish tearing out the ceiling that had soaked. I wasn't going to let them leave. Oh, we will just spray some bleach on. No, you're not. You're going to rip out the ceiling and give me a new ceiling. We just got it. That was last spring. They just finished it early this year. It took 9 months to get it completely done. So guess what? Yeah, because I have a law background and I will threaten and cajole, and I try to be nice, but I just don't take any crap. So yeah, you got to make people remediate and do that. So you can't. So the answer to your question is, it's sometimes it's a little bigger than you want it to be, but we try to set an example of confronting your challenges. Confront your challenges. Do not shy away or back away from them. It's a big part. If you're going to help others, help yourself first. And so you can't empty a bathtub, the water's still running. You look for the sourcing. And it isn't always black mold in the attic from a flood. It could be food. A lot of food has a lot of mold toxins on it, right, Elizabeth?
Absolutely. With the way that we have a centralized food system and food is put into storage a lot before it is shipped out and sold, and that is a, a great place for mold to grow. And we as humans have grown up in concert with mold for as long as we've been on the planet. So if there is a mold issue, it is also an issue of detox and it is also an issue of immunity. And that's why we have to work on these things in concert. Uh,
And
Sharmil says, do you bring in emotional stress, trauma, etc., and how that relates to healing opportunities?
well, you could answer that as well as me. I'll go first and just say that yes, absolutely. When the obstacle to healing is in the mind and emotions of the person, they might have to go back and address some particular trauma or whatever it is. Stinking thinking is what I used to call it. No one likes the term, and that's kind of passe and shows how old I am. Stinking thinking. Yeah, so how you perceive the problem can be an obstacle. So if we say, hey, look, your hormones are out of balance, your immune system's overactive or underactive, your digestion isn't really, you're not really breaking down, absorbing nutrients, you're eating great food, not getting in there. Your detox systems are congested a little bit. So all that's kind of the easy part. And then fixing it is simple and should be easy. But if you've got mental and emotional issues preventing you from doing it, then of course we have to address that too.
We have in our intake process a self-assessment where clients can tell us about their stress levels in their lives. And so we are able to identify when there's a lot of emotional trauma or healing obstacles there within that particular category. Now, I'm not a professional in that. So that's where I'm going to refer out to a partner who might be able to take on some of those emotional difficulties to really root them out. But also, life is full of emotional challenge, right? That's just the medium that we're in for life. And when our physical bank account is really, really low, we don't respond to those things well. So even just by adding money into our vital reserve bank account, we can deal better with our emotional trauma. It's not always about the emotional trauma in inhibiting healing. It can be. I mean, these things are all connected. They speak into each other, but we can go at it from the physical body as well.
I want to just throw on top of that, and it's not woo-woo. It's not woo-woo when you say that beyond mental emotional, which is a certain level, psychospiritual, that no purpose in life is stressful. It's a hidden stress. You may not know that's your problem. And that's our job, is to help identify these things. So sometimes you get someone on track with a purpose in their life. It resolves a lot of emotional difficulties and mental difficulties because you know why you're getting up in the morning. When you know why you're getting up in the morning, that then you see a lot of these things disappear, Charmel and everybody. It's just amazing. And so I call that's beyond mental emotional to me. And again, it's not woo to say psycho spiritual or just spiritual if you want, that uh, we're here to serve and just get up every day. I think the creator gave us a time management tool. It's called one day at a time. You can only live one day at a time. And so that's a gift, that we get to us. There's cycles like that. And there's monthly cycles and there's yearly cycles and things, but we do it all within laws of nature, if you want to call it that.
Amazing. Well, those are all the questions that we have. Any last words you want to leave everyone with?
Yeah, we're happy to give you as much information as you need to help you make decisions about your purpose in life. And you're welcome, Sharmil. Um, Happy to answer questions. Love answering questions. Pick my brain until it's gone.
And
No-
I just want to leave you with the thought that we recognize that you are all, just as you are now, unique expressions of healing in the world. And while FDN is a process, it's a system. We do have our catchphrases that we like. It can be worked around what you presently do and how you heal and who you are. We have utmost respect for that. And our system is fundamentally compatible with whatever that is for you.
Okay, so we'll see you on Valentine's Day
Yeah,
because you have
awesome.
nothing else to do, right?
That's, yeah, come for Valentine's Day. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.